ladies and gentlemen, and good afternoon, and to all the way with this professional boxer, Amaris Quintana. How you doing? How's everything?
I'm well. I'm doing very good. Just here, relaxing a bit before work.
Hey, thank you for taking the time of me, and of course, I'm really pleased to have you over here and speak about a little bit of your career because eventually, like I was saying off the camera, sometimes when we interview people, it's hard to get a little bit the story, but of every
Yeah.
female boxer and every boxer as well. But first of all, congrats on your titles that you had there. You've been fighting, since I guess you started in boxing. But here comes the first question:
Uh-huh.
how you enter in the sport of boxing? I mean, I always, taking my hat off right in front of every person and
Yeah.
said, especially with women's, all beautiful women's, but I always be like, taking the sport of boxing. Tell us a little bit of your story.
Well, growing up, I grew up with an older brother and my guy cousins. So, I grew up playing with my brother, and they taught me how to rough play all the time: soccer, football, baseball, everything. So, I pretty much grew up like a little tomboy, and growing up, I was always tough. My brother's 2 years older than me, but he was more quiet and shy when he was little. And he would get bullied at school, so I would see that, and I would run over and beat up the little boys and just defend my brother. So it's just, growing up with males just makes you tough. So I've always liked fighting. I guess, like my dad says, I was born a fighter because I was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck,
Mm-hmm.
and said I was fighting through it, and I'm here. And
Wow, pretty much a strong woman, I can say, and nothing, just respect for you because I always said,
thank you.
you don't need to necessarily, and when I share this message, I always said, you don't need to be necessarily a female boxer, but when you enter to the sport of boxing or any other combat sport, is also to learn how to defend, especially you women's. I mean, eventually things are sometimes kind of rare outside, and if there
Yeah,
is nobody, and then at least you know how to defend yourself. But good thing that you also have
exactly.
brothers that they back it up
Yeah.
to yourself, and I bet you that the fight spirit, it runs in the family. But nothing,
Yeah.
my respect for you. Amanis,
Thank
you're welcome. First of all, I know you had a career that eventually I was just talking off, the camera, and then I said, let me ask you this question. Um, Basically from San Diego, and I know it was close to this other fighter that I had so much respect. She's just retired, unified champion, Sinise Estrada. Did you girls ever, try to make that fight happen? Because hey, you got the style, she got the style, and that would be a big fight right now. If you,
That's one fight that I would have loved to have. Unfortunately, every time they would call me to fight her, it would be short notice, or they would tell me if I wanted to fight, and then they would call my manager back and tell them that they got another fighter instead of me. So it never happened. It sucks. I wish it would have happened. That would have been a good fight. My respect to her and everything she's done in the sport of boxing for women, also. But, things happen. Sometimes you try to fight everybody, but you can't.
yeah, unfortunately, sometimes we get things like that, fights like that. Like eventually, you just remind me something that I mean, for years we've been waiting. Sometimes, that I'm jumping on the topic of heavyweight division, right? Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. For some reason, never happened, and I'm still, probably want to see, these two great fighters, great champions to face each other or have the fight. But for some reason, it's not happening. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but some of the case, like you said it, unfortunately, you retired or things like that, and Sinise is retired, so it never happened, and we were like, oof. But it would be a
Yeah.
great fight. And right now,
Yeah.
at the atmosphere that is really intense and electrified right now, it would be one of the greatest fighters. I mean, MSG, California, Vegas,
Mhm.
Texas. I don't know. I mean, but let me go with this question: what's your thoughts on women's boxing? Because eventually now women's boxing is coming stronger. That force is very, growing stronger and stronger, and it came to stay. It's not going nowhere. It's making a lot of
Yeah.
noise. What's your thoughts on it?
And I'm happy that it's finally making noise. these upcoming women fighters deserve the chance to, to get the respect and the pay that the men get. Fortunately, I didn't get the chance, but I did it for the sport. I did it in honor of my grandparents. My grandpa passed away a week before I fought for the NABF belt, and he made me promise him that I wasn't going to quit. So the night of the fight for this belt was the same night as his funeral. So I was at my fight in TJ, and I was fighting. I don't know how I fought, but I fought my heart out. And as soon as the fight was over, we drove down to the funeral home, and I laid my belt on his
On the
casket.
casket.
You know?
Wow. Wow. I'm sorry
Yeah.
that I brought up that. Never thought you did something like that. But wow, my respect and taking my hat off right from my head right in front of you. And may God bless
Thank
your
you.
family, give you strength and fortress every time that you remember, because I bet you it's something
Yeah.
that is for life and it's a lifetime, and I bet you that there's so much pride on those bells that you had there, family, and nothing, Amaris. I mean, like I said, so much respect when it comes from myself to all of you, including yourself. Amaris, eventually, like you just mentioned, that wasn't, I guess, the whole support as when you started your career. But now seeing Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor, and all these great champions that they're gonna be in this card. First of all,
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on? Let me congratulate first Jake Paul and his whole team behind, because he had bet for every female athlete that it's in this card, and no one else I think done that in the sport of boxing, women's boxing. But what's your thoughts on Jake Paul? I mean, I know he's trying to be a boxer and he got the skills and everything, but betting for all these women, that takes a lot, and my respect for Jake Paul. What's your thoughts on it that he's bringing now the MSG, this great card, July 11?
Really, like I pay my respects to a man who finally steps up and gives the women the support that they deserve. I'm a big fan of Amanda Serrano, and Katie Taylor is good also. Those fights have been nothing but wars, and that's what boxing is. That's what women boxing should be. As every fight that you would see between a woman has always been wars. We go to do what we have to do, whether we get paid, whether I didn't get paid my last 3 fights in Mexico that I had, but I did it for the sport. I did it for the sport as much as I didn't, get to be at the top, get signed by a big promoter. Like I did it for the sport. I did it in memory of my grandparents, both my abuelitos, who they loved me. They didn't really support my boxing because they were old school. But both of them, before they passed away, they made me promise that I was never going to quit and I was going to become champ.
Wow.
So to me, the money wasn't anything. The sport and the promise I made my abuelos was what pushed me through.
Wow, what a strength and force right there. I mean, when I talking about this, I'm related with you because I had something kind of similar of your lifestyle. And when it comes to grandparents, right? I mean, you're talking about your abuelito and abuelita. I got something like that to share as well one day. But
Yeah.
wow, we related on that, and it's a strong force. Believe me, it's a strong
Yeah.
force and a strength
Yeah.
that comes from your grandparents and great grandparents, and what an amazing, I mean, it's strange that I can tell you are a woman that spirit is there, but hey, congrats on
Yeah.
everything and every achievement that you have done in your career, and nothing, just continue moving forward. Talking about continue moving forward, I know you been hasn't been in boxing active, is probably in your thoughts maybe that you see right now. mm, Women's boxing is growing and it's getting a little bit much better than the way it was before. You thinking about to coming back, or I don't know if the spark is still there, like and then be like and then return
I
back.
mean, the spark in a fighter never goes. As much as you retire, a fighter is always a fighter at heart. And unfortunately, I went through some health issues when I fought under the Triple G card. I was with the wrong training team. It didn't go. I wasn't. What is it? I wasn't at the best health and the best, condition that I needed to be. But I still went in there. I lost. It was a bad loss, but I still got up after every knockout, and I kept going. Like my family always taught me, never to give up. You fall, you get back up. And after that fight, I had some issues, and I went to the emergency room. They did a CAT scan, and they found out I had a tumor in my heart.
Oh,
So,
I'm so
but I
sorry.
still fought. Yeah, the doctor told me I got lucky that a punch to the chest didn't like rupture it. But I went through it. Thankfully, it was benign, so it wasn't cancerous, so they were able to remove it. I took like a year and a half off to recover, and I came back, and I fought my last 3 fights.
Oh wow! Thanks for sharing that type of thing, very personal. And I always say, with all
Yeah,
respect to you, we as a reporter sometimes we forget to ask certain things, and we just talk about the fighter, the style and other things, and we forgot about that. Eventually, at the end of the day, you go on. You all of you, whether it's a man or female, going through issues and personal things like that. And I like to thank you, Amaris, for
thanks.
sharing this because I mean you are a warrior. Believe me. Oh my God,
Thank you.
you. I feel like right now you got me without words, but it's okay and nothing. If I was there, I would give you a hug and say, "Hey, you are a Wonder Woman. You're a Wonder
Thank
Woman."
you.
And maybe one day we will meet again, and nothing
Of
but
course.
so much respect for that, and nothing. Just continue doing what you do. I bet you that
Yeah.
the spark as a fighter is still there, and I don't know if you
Oh, yeah.
it's in your thoughts maybe become a trainer or maybe you're doing it as a trainer right now or
When I was down in San Diego, I was doing a little bit of training. Right now, like I went through a bad divorce, and I moved out to Yuma, Arizona, 8 months ago, and my best friend lives out here, and she got me out here, and I'm getting my life back together. But I did start, what is it, working with the commission, athletic commission. So hopefully, once I get more stable, I can go back to working for the commission. But yeah, just getting my life back together, and down the road, maybe open up a little gym out here in Yuma and help these girls that want to come up and
that's awesome.
fight.
That's awesome, Amanis. I mean, hey, it's so interesting when I see, and like I said, I like to support, and if I ever get the chance to travel back, I mean, to go to your state, that'd be awesome to get there and just, support yourself because I like to support women's boxing and I'm here to do that. I have a story too, for
Yeah,
whoever asks me like why am I support women's boxing. There's so much, and I always admire every female athlete. One of the persons that I saw and I remember how hard she trains is Amanda Serrano, and I was there also with in Mexico with Barbie Juarez, and I saw and I experienced how she trains too. So these two women
yeah,
got me into the sport of boxing to help every female athlete out there in order to launch
yeah,
and to the world in order that they can see who she is and what they want. But yeah, I mean, Amani, it's admirable what you do and nothing but respect. Amani, say I know it's been right a controversy, like the fight that we just eventually saw between Canelo and William Skull. What first of all, what's your thoughts um, on Canelo Alvarez? Because he's the target of every boxer. What's your thoughts on it?
I'm a big fan of Canelo Alvarez. Like in the sport of boxing, whether you win, whether you lose, you make it to the top. People are always gonna talk, but Canelo's doing his thing. He's fighting fighters heavier than him, lower than him. He's not staying at the same weight. He's his what is it? His skills have expanded so much, and my respects to him. People are always gonna talk. Whether you're humble, whether you're stuck up, whether anything, they're always gonna talk. So you know what? He's making his money. He's doing his thing. He's fighting fighters heavier than him, and that's what I gave him respect. I had to fight fighters heavier than me too. In Tijuana, my last 3 fights, I was at 105. My opponents that I had ended up canceling, so last minute opponents were coming in at 120 pounds, and I was at 105 pounds,
Well,
and I still had 3 stoppages. So, you know, you just gotta do what you gotta do. You can't please the whole world.
It's true, and I respect your opinion. Excuse me, I respect your opinion because I think to me Canelo has done so much, for the sport of
Yeah.
boxing, and whether you like him or not, he's the main person right now that everyone is targeting, including Jake Paul. That he would love to fight Canelo, but I don't know what's gonna happen. But what's your thoughts on Canelo Alvarez right now? They saying by September he might face Terence Crawford, one of the skillful fighters, unified champion as well in his weight class division. But now he will have to go over 168 and face Canelo Alvarez. That's a tough challenge, I would say so. But what's your thoughts on it? I mean, how
Oh,
do you?
if Canelo Alvarez went up to, what is his name? Bolivo or
With, the one who he fought, Dimitri Ball.
yeah.
Hmm.
If Canelo Alvarez went up to his weight, then it shouldn't be a problem for Crawford to go up to Canelo's weight, or meet halfway. But I think that would be a good fight. But I think Canelo is ready to fight him. Canelo, he's gonna surprise everyone. Yeah, he has. Yeah, Crawford has skills, has everything, but it takes intelligence, it takes experience. So I believe if they give their heart out, and just give a good fight. That's what I thought. I fought everybody. I didn't pick my fighters. I fought who they wanted me to fight. I fought tough fighters, experienced fighters. I didn't care. I went in there to give my all, and I fought my heart out. And I wanted to give, all my all the people a good show and show them what the sport of boxing is, because I know the sport of boxing has changed a lot, and it's not like back in the days with Julio Cesar Chavez, and those were wars. And that's what I grew up seeing, and that's why every time I got in the ring, I gave my all, and I gave everybody a war.
I totally, share the same thought and feeling with you because, hey, and I kind of miss, those type of fights like you just mentioned, right? Julio Cesar Chavez, and Fernando Vargas, Oscar De La Hoya, and all these fighters that eventually I remember, Ricardo Mayorga, Tito Trinidad, and all of them, facing each other, like not ducking anybody,
Not
and
picking fights, yeah.
not picking fights, and those were the great moments, and I hope the boxing continues being like that, not
Yeah.
just expecting, because like I just mentioned, right, and I brought
Mm-hmm.
an example, right, Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. It never happened for some reason, and that would be good at that time because both of them they carried
Yeah.
their own titles. But
Yeah.
I still wanna see who wins. If that fight happens right now in guess what, maybe a year, we don't know, exactly, but that should be good if it happens. Amanis, I know it's the time, it's kind of short right now that eventually you have to go to work, and I'm very thankful, we're taking this phone call as a video, interview. But in the meantime, I bet you that there will be more time in order to grab another
Yes, of course.
interview, and I like to say thank you. But before all of that, I would love to, ask you, like, what message would you like to deliver to the fight fans and everyone before we wrap it up with the interview?
I just want to tell them, keep train your heart out. Fight your best fights, fight your wars. Don't give up. It gets hard, especially for upcoming fighters. Women, we still have to work. We still have to work full time plus train. It's growing now. Every woman out there, follow your dreams and never give up. I didn't give up. I got my 2 belts. I left my mark in the sport of boxing. I didn't, make the Hall of Fame. I didn't make money, but I don't care. I left my mark, and people know that when I got in the ring, I gave them a war and I gave them something to remember.
Oh yes, I mean, and right now you just mentioned something war, and I remember it comes in my mind quickly, and I want to give a nothing but love before all of that, to say a huge shout out to Cindy because that type of fight, it was a war between you and her,
Yeah.
but hey, love and respect for both of you because I
Yes.
had done interviews with her, and unfortunately, she says to me I couldn't continue boxing due to my conditioning that I have, personal and nothing. And like I say, respect for you, Cindy, as well, because
Yeah,
either way, that was becoming something personal. Like you will continue, or even though she said probably I will pass away.
yeah,
God forbid. But I said, you know what, do what you do the best, and if you're gonna retire and become something else, that's great as well. But
yeah.
Amanis, I like to
And
say,
my respects to her too. We stay in contact. Me and Cindy stay in contact. Hi, Cindy. And I went out to her place one time and we hung out for her birthday. And we fought each other in the ring and we became friends.
oh wow,
So
that's amazing, and that
yeah,
that's how this the sport of boxing it is. We gather together from so many cultures, ethnicities, and different places. All fighters come
yeah,
together, and it becomes a family when it comes to the sport. Because I always
yeah,
said, I like to thank and welcome everyone, because God knows when am I gonna see this fighter again, and God willing, maybe I will see him or her again, but you never know. But when it comes to family, I think it's a good and great environment when we gather together. And as you mentioned, you create a friendship right now with Cindy that I want to say a huge shout out to her and Paco as well, because I
yeah,
get to talk to them as well too. But I guess I gotta talking later on with them in another interview that I might reach out for Cindy. But I like to say thank you, Manis, because hey,
thank you.
I don't say goodbye from you, because I'll be in touch with you, grabbing another interview
Sounds good.
later on, if you got willing, the time is right, and of course, if you have available time for me. So, ladies and gentlemen, Amanis Quintana with us. Thank you for taking the phone call. Appreciate for your time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.